Good, and we've already got some questions in. Right, let's start. So, hello, Adam. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Ben. I run our bookshop in Tring, and Adam is being very kind enough to take over your classroom, your lesson for the next 45 minutes. Mrs. Morris, hello from Mrs. Morris, Year 6 at Brooklands.
Hello, Mrs. Morris.
Today they've got Maisie, Rory, Maisie, another Maisie. How many Maisies do you have in Leighton Buzzard? Izzy, Darcy, Isaac, Christian, Kieran, and Adrian. That's very exciting. Well, anyway, that's all very exciting. I can already see a load of questions coming in there. Those are going to be asked at in half an hour. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Adam to take your class.
Hello, everybody. How are you all? It's thanks, Ben. That's a nice introduction, and it's a real honour to be here today to talk to you. First of all, a big shout out to Tring Bookshop and all independent bookshops. We love you, and I can see all of your questions coming in, and as I say, it's wonderful to be here. So I am Adam Barron, and I am an author, and I've written lots of books for adults, but I have also written now 3 books for children, and here they are. So my first book for children is called Boy Underwater, and there is the boy underwater. You can see him there. Now, some of you may have read this or not, doesn't matter for today at all. So Boy Underwater was about a little boy called Cymbeline, not so little boy, called Cymbeline Igloo, who's never been swimming in his life. Okay, and as I'm sure you all know, school swimming lessons happen, and a terrible thing happens to Cymbeline the first time he goes on a school swimming lesson, because he's stupid enough beforehand to challenge the school bully to a swimming race in the swimming pool. And he's never been swimming before. He practices in the bath, but it doesn't help him. And then the whole book is about why he's never been swimming and why his mother has never taken him near water. And Cymbeline has to solve that mystery. So I wrote Boy Underwater, and then the wonderful people at HarperCollins, and you can see that's their logo there, HarperCollins, wanted to publish it, but they said, we want 3 children's books. And I said, fabulous. I really want to start writing children's books, because I've got a young family now and I'm surrounded by kids, and I'm rereading all the lovely books I read when I was young. So I thought, well, I'll write another one. And there's a character in Boy Underwater called Veronique Chang. And when I was writing Boy Underwater, I got really interested in her family. She is half Vietnamese and half French. And I just became interested about this family. And so I wrote this book called You Won't Believe This. And there you can see, is that Veronique perhaps, or is it her grandmother? Because this book is about refugees. It's about people who come from other countries. And my grandparents, who I never met because they died when I was tiny, they actually escaped from persecution in Eastern Europe, so they were refugees. So I'm really support refugee rights, because I wouldn't be here if we didn't live in a country that welcomed refugees from different parts of the world. And so I wrote You Won't Believe This, and this book is all about. So Veronique's grandmother decides she doesn't want to eat anymore, and that she's had enough of life. And Veronique and Cymbeline, because it's Cymbeline again, have to find out what happened to Veronique's grandma to make her feel this awful way. And it takes them on this enormous adventure. There's all sorts of things happening there. And then for my 3rd book, if you've read Boy Underwater, you might know that Cymbeline loses something at the end of Boy Underwater. And my friend Kate said, no, when she read that, it's so sad, and he mustn't, even though it's a very happy ending, there's one element that isn't. He loses something, and she said, no, he hasn't lost it. And I said, don't be silly, Kate, sorry. And then I realized, no, he hasn't, because he dropped it in a river, and rivers go places. So this wonderful thing, which is my latest book that came out a couple of weeks ago, it is all about a girl called Jessica, and you can see her there, and she has found something on a day trip with her mum and dad to a wonderful place on the south coast called Cookmere Haven, where this enormous river flows out to this incredible beach surrounded by cliffs. And they have a wonderful day out, and she finds something at the end. And I wonder if you can guess what it is that she finds. Okay. Jessica's family are having a really difficult time at the moment. Her mum is a nurse, and her dad doesn't have a job now because he is ill. He's come over with a mystery illness, It means he's had to give up his job, and the family don't have very much money. There haven't been any treats in the family for ages, and mum is working overtime. So to find this thing on this rare day out for them is wonderful. But it doesn't just feature Jessica, it also features Cymbeline too. And the book has 2 points of view. You move from Jessica's point of view and Cymbeline's point of view. And Cymbeline's having a really difficult time too. His mum and dad aren't together anymore, and he's been living with his mum, and he just loves having the whole place with just him and his mum. Okay, but his mum is getting married again, and she has moved Stefan and his 2 daughters into their house, and these 2 daughters make Cymbeline's life a complete and utter misery. Cymbeline loves Star Wars and Lego, and he makes this amazing Death Star with his friend Lance. It is incredible. But Mabel, the little one, turns every single piece of his Lego into little unicorns because she's obsessed with unicorns. And the older girl steals away, or tries to steal away, his best friend Veronique. So Cymbeline has to think of a way to get Veronique back, and come to an understanding that his new family is going to be absolutely brilliant. And that's what happens in this wonderful thing. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to read a little bit from this wonderful thing, from the very opening of the book. And then what I'd like us to do is I'd like us to think about how books begin. Okay, and I am going to and I've got I have read Boy Underwater. It's awesome. Thanks for writing. Well, thank you very much for reading it. So I'm going to read from the opening, and then we're going to have a little discussion about how stories start. Something called the inciting incident, which us writer folks often call it. And I'm going to get you to type some stuff into the chat function, okay, in a minute. But first of all, and then what's going to happen after that is Ben is going to come back on at about 10 o'clock, and he's taken loads of questions from you, and Ben's going to ask me lots of tricky questions and put me on the spot. Okay, and somebody has read Boy Underwater, and you won't believe this too. Well, I'm very pleased because Cymbeline will come back, but the book does not start with Cymbeline. It starts with Jessica, and I have a slight warning there now for the teachers as I put my reading glasses on. So I get them up. The teachers in my there's a health warning over this. The word poo will occur in this excerpt. The word poo will occur, and in fact, it was pointed out to me the other day that a different teacher believes, and she could be right, and I hope she is, that in this chapter I use the word poo more often than any other writer in history. Okay, and I'm hoping that is true because that would get me in the Guinness Book of Records, which I hope it does. So a slight warning about that before we go with chapter 1 of this wonderful thing by me, Adam Barron, published by HarperCollins, the wonderful HarperCollins. Right, here we go. Chapter 1. And I am the same person, it's just me with glasses. It is not the case that a strange, different person has come into the room. Right, here's something that will make you laugh. And can I just say, that is a really stupid way of beginning a book. And I will tell you why it is. Because if I don't make you laugh, because you're sitting there now going, I bet you can't. I bet you can't. So the first rule of writing a book is never begin a book with the line, here's something that will make you laugh. And I really wish somebody had taught me that lesson before I wrote this book, and it didn't happen. Okay, so chapter 1, Jessica, here's something that will make you laugh. Yesterday, we went to this place called Cookmere Haven. Mum, Dad, Millie, Benji, and me. And we played poo sticks. What? Not clutching your sides, not rolling on the floor in fits of giggles? Well, get this. We played poo sticks with real poo. We did. Honest. The poo belonged to Benji, who suddenly needed one. Dad had left his potty in the car, so Mum pulled his shorts down by this big stream. Once Benji had done it, the poo rolled down between his trainers, bounced down the bank, and jumped into the water. It sank, came up and swirled round to the middle, which would have been quite funny on its own. But Millie had an idea, something I have to admit because she's bigger than me, and if I take the credit, she'll hit me. She grabbed a stick from underneath a bush, me not knowing what she was up to, until she lobbed it in. "Pooh sticks!" she bellowed. "Pooh sticks! We're playing pooh sticks with poo and sticks!" I shouted as I grabbed one too and bunged it in after. "We're playing pooh sticks with poo and sticks." And we weren't the only ones. Mum said, "Girls," and "Stop that." But Dad clearly didn't think that girls applied to him. He grabbed a stick and chucked it in as well, leaving Mum to tut and wipe Benji's bum as the 3 sticks and poo began to move. Now, we'd done what most people do when they're playing poo sticks: cheat. Millie had thrown her stick in front of the poo. I'd thrown my stick in front of hers, and Dad had thrown his in front of mine. But it did not matter. While our sticks turned in circles or got snagged on weeds and reeds, the little brown ball from Benji's bottom overtook them all. "Pooh!" Millie shouted, jumping up and down on the bank. "He's really good at poo sticks." "Not all poo, I shouldn't think," Dad said. "Good job it wasn't a sticky poo. And if you're not laughing now, forget it." Well, Benji wanted to know what the fuss was about, so once he was bum-wiped and dressed, Dad hoisted him onto his shoulders. We all ran along the bank. Mum, still not that amused, as Millie and I shouted, "Go sticks!" and Dad and Benji shouted, "Go poo!" and some bird watchers looked on in shock. Mum was even more embarrassed when all the sticks got jammed up on some stones and Millie, who had Crocs on, ran into the stream. "What are you doing?" Mum yelled. Millie had pulled her dress up and was holding it in place with her chin. "I can't let him win," Millie said. She's super competitive. "Sticks are useless." But Mum bellowed so loud that Millie got out without doing her own poo, and we had to watch Benji triumph. Our sticks soon far behind as the poo, almost as if it knew it was in a race, sprinted on. It swept beneath a footbridge. It wobbled past some ducks, which some other bird watchers were looking at. It began to go so fast that we could hardly keep level. Benji almost hoarse from shouting, and Dad panting to keep up with Millie and me. Then the stream got wider. There was a beach up ahead. The water was shallower, and the poo started to skip, hopping out of the water as it leapt over little stones and round small boulders. It was hard to see, then more so as the sun burst out and made the water all sparkly. "We're going to lose the poo!" Millie shouted, urging me to go faster. We stumbled on, thinking it was gone forever, until Millie caught sight of it. She pulled me by the arm and we sped up, just in time to see the poo roll out of the stream and onto the beach in front of us. We stared down at the poo in awe and respect. It didn't even look tired. "Olympic standard," Dad said, puffing to a halt beside us, then coughing. He's been having some problems with his fitness recently. "Olympic standard poo." "Let's do it again," Millie said. "Let's go back. Only the poo belongs to me this time." "You pick it up then," I said. And because Millie wants to win stuff so much, I swear she would have. But Mum arrived, really cross now, hissing at Dad about being poorly recently and how he wasn't supposed to run, as she scrabbled around in her backpack. She pulled out a nappy bag, scooped the poo up and marched off towards a bin. Millie sighed and I was disappointed too, turning back to see if any of the sticks had made it that far. Maybe I'd come second, or first poo stick made of stick, not poo. When Millie realised what I was looking for, though, she spun round too, both of us shielding our eyes until the sun went in, which is when I saw it. in the water. My eyes just settled on it, and I stared, blinking, sort of calm inside, as if for some reason it had wanted me to find it. Not a stick or another poo. No. I saw the thing that would change our lives forever. So that is how, the only words I can hear are poo. That's a great comment. Well, the word poo did occur many, many times there. And please, when you are reading books in the future, count the word poo, and that is how you judge whether or not a book is good or not. It's how many times the word poo appears in the book. That's simply the only metric, and that I think means that this wonderful thing is in fact the best, greatest book ever written in the history of the world, because that is the only. So if you go on Amazon to give a review, it shouldn't be 5 stars, it should be 5 poos. Let me tell you that. Okay, so that is how this wonderful thing begins. That chapter is, there's lots of nice, there's lots of nice comments coming in. I shall ignore those because we haven't got long before Ben comes back. What I want to do now, so that's how this wonderful thing begins. And I want you to get your brains working now, everybody, because a story needs the beginning. It needs something to kickstart it into motion. Because as I talk, when I visit schools, I always use this phrase: real life is boring. Okay, real life is boring. And the world that you find in books is not boring. It's fun, it's exciting. But it's exciting because something happens. And this can often be a really terrible thing. So in Boy Underwater, Cymbeline, who's never been swimming, gets pushed into a swimming pool. It's the worst thing that could possibly happen to him. So what I want you to do now is, let's see if in the 4 or 5 minutes we have left, we can think about an inciting incident. Now, what I want you all to do now is think of someone you really, really like. And this can be your best friend. It can be your mum. It can be your dad. It can be your Uncle Bill. It can be your favorite teacher. It can be absolutely anything. And then I want you to think of something really terrible to happen to them, because that's the strange thing about authors. We create these characters we love and then have dreadful things happen to them. Okay, and this is it can be anything you want. So, and I'll give you an example about an inciting incident and how it refers to the character personally. So Cymbeline has never been swimming in his life. His mum has never even taken him to a lake or a river. He's never been to a public swimming pool, and he gets pushed into the swimming pool, and his swimming shorts come off in front of all his friends, and of course he falls to the bottom. Now, if that event had happened to any of the other kids in his class, they would have just swum. It would have been annoying and embarrassing, but for Cymbeline, it changes his life. So my daughter Viola has got a best friend called Nelly, and she's like a part of our family. She's around here all the time. But Nelly has a funny thing about her. Nelly hates pigeons. In fact, she's terrified of pigeons. Okay, so if I were to write a story about someone like Nelly, it would involve pigeons. Maybe Nelly would get stuck in the loft in her house and the skylight would break and in would fly all these pigeons, and they would fly all around her head. And this would send her into the world of story. Now with you're not scared of pigeons. That might be just a bit annoying. But literally Nelly, if she sees a pigeon in the park, she runs away. It's very strange. It's very, very strange indeed. So what I want you to do, hello Brooklands Middle School, what I want you to do now is think of somebody you like, and think about something particular about them. Okay, think about the thing that like, and can you right now think of an inciting incident for a story? Okay, can we do that right now? Teachers, if you're out there, can you get some ideas from the kids? And let's have Long Marston School. How are you? Let's have some ideas, and then we can work on them. We can workshop them. And while you're doing that, I will, and there's millions of questions coming in that Ben's going to ask. think of a person and think of the particular thing that would make their life a misery. Okay, and while you're doing that, I will read you the first couple of pages of Boy Underwater, which was my first children's book a couple of years ago. Okay, right. Chapter 1. Here's something you won't believe. I, Cymbeline Igloo, have never been swimming. It's the swimming bit you won't believe, by the way. Though if you don't believe my name either, it really is Cymbeline Igloo. And you have to believe that because it's written on my school bag and in my jumpers and on lots of other things like my passport. You won't believe I've never been swimming because I mean totally never, not ever, not once. I am 9 years old. I am the 3rd best footballer in year 4, joint. And the 2nd best at roller skating after Elizabeth Fisher, and she goes to a club on Sundays. I am fit and healthy and totally normal in every way, apart from my name, but I've never set foot in the sea, a river or a lake, not to mention an actual normal everyday swimming pool, not in my life, until last Monday. I blame my mum totally. She's just never taken me. Not as a baby, not as a toddler, not when I was at nursery or when I was in Key Stage 1. When I've asked why, she's come up with rubbish excuse after even more rubbish excuse. We don't go to the beach because she's allergic to sand. Rivers, she says, are where crocodiles live, but we live in southeast London. Lakes, she tells me, are like lochs, which could contain things like the Loch Ness Monster, which is so dangerous not that no one has ever seen it. Sorry, Scotland, but it's true. Your monster is rubbish. As for swimming pools, chlorine, what's that, can make you itchy. And you often find clumps of other people's hair in swimming pools, and some of it doesn't come from their heads, but other places. That last bit is actually the most convincing argument for staying away from the whole swimming thing, though it's still not good enough, and Mum should have taken me. This is something that was made spectacularly clear last Monday when something happened that I can only describe as a complete and total disaster. Okay, so that is the opening of Boy Underwater, a story about someone, Cymbeline, who I absolutely adore. Something terrible happens to him. Now, I'm going to look at the chat now, and we have got some replies. So, my friend Jasmine, and we fall down the steps. Just, just a minute. Let's have a look. Hello from Mrs. Mansell. Today we have made it. I've got those going down. I lost that one. The chat function is being annoying. Let's have a look. We had one about my friend and I falling down into a fountain. Let's have a good. My friend Zanab got kidnapped. Oh, my best friend got kidnapped. Now, that's a good inciting incident because being kidnapped would be terrible for anything, for anybody. But how can we take the idea, for instance? So that's a really good, and I think that's Amina. Amina, thank you very much, Amina. The idea of being kidnapped is a really good one. But how can you make it particularly pertinent to your particular character? So here's what we would do. Here's what I would do with being kidnapped. So if you've got a character who's been kidnapped, that's terrible. Let's make it worse. What if it is the day before their grade 4 piano exam? What if it's the grade 4 piano exam, but she's got a twin brother and they're very, very competitive, and the day before the piano exam, he took his piano exam and he got a distinction and he was brilliant, and the whole family, they've got a big extended family, and everybody's going on about how amazing this boy is, her twin brother, and they think she's a bit useless, but she's been practicing really, really, really hard for her grade 4, and now she's been kidnapped and she can't take it. And if she doesn't take it, her family are going to think he's even better, she's even more useless. Okay, so that just taking it and tweaking it in that way, that makes it even worse for her, even though you couldn't imagine you couldn't imagine that being any worse. Okay, so all right, we've got another one here. This is really good. I think this is from Trey. Hello, Trey. Ella, there's a character Ella, morphing into an animal and never being able to get back to being human. That's fantastic, Ella. I really like that. How terrible would that feel? And in fact, there's a very good book called Fluke by James Herbert about a man who's reincarnated as a dog. Very good book. But let's do what we just did. Let's make that even worse. How about this? Your character, Trey, Ella, is a bit like Nelly, and she's got one animal that she absolutely is terrified by. Now, a lot of people are scared of spiders, aren't they? I don't know why, unless you live in Australia and the thing can come along and bite you, and then you're dead within 3.5 seconds. What about a cat? Is anybody, you can't answer this, well, you can put it in the chat. Is anybody terrified of spiders? If you were ultra terrified of spiders, imagine morphing into one. Yeah, imagine perhaps morphing into a baby spider, and then you are surrounded by spiders, and you see the mama spider coming towards. I'm sorry, that actually scared me, because that does look like a spider coming towards my face to get me. So in this way, we make the inciting incident really mean something to the particular character, and not just an inciting incident that could be terrible for anybody. Let's go down and see. I fell into a lake. Oh, did you? My uncle is scared of dogs. Oh, your uncle is scared of dogs. That's great. So what could we do with somebody who's scared of dogs? Yeah. You've got to find a way of absolutely surrounding them with dogs. I'm terrified of dogs. And I tell you something that happened to me once. I was living in Kenya, and everybody in Kenya has a dog to guard the house. And I am terrified of dogs. I admit that. And I got out of my car visiting this guy in this remote place, and his dog bounded out of his house, and it was as big as me, and it put its paws on my shoulders, this enormous dog, and started barking like this, right in my face here, and I couldn't move. And then the guy just came out the house and said, "Oh, get down, Ben," because that's the name of the dog. And the dog got down, and I nearly fainted. But it was a good lesson for me not to be afraid of dogs. Kidnapped by my own parents. Oh, I quite like that. I quite like that one. That could be very funny. At the moment, my son's doing his GCSEs, and I'm trying to get him to revise all the time and stuff like that. And he feels like he's been kidnapped by his own parents in his own house, having to do all these things. That could be really funny. That could be very funny. I'm going to go down. Is there another one? Can you give me in your school? I will. No. Hello, shout out. What inspired you? These are questions. Hello. Oh, a tap bouncer breaks both ankles. That is an excellent inciting incident. That is really brilliant. I really like that one. Somebody really obsessed with tap dancing. Okay. Now, it was really snowy recently, so maybe she went sledging in Greenwich Park near where I live, and her brother persuaded her to go, and she didn't want to go, and she breaks both of her ankles. That's really good, but we can make it better by thinking of the specific thing she needs to do. She wants to go, if it's a she, maybe it's he, doesn't matter. He or she wants to go to the Royal Ballet School, the most prestigious dance school in the country, and her audition is the next day. Okay, can you see how we take these ideas, and we make them even better? Now, I wonder if there is another one we could work for. I'm really terrified. There's loads of people scared of spiders. Here it comes again. Right. I'm scared of dogs. But a strange phenomenon occurred yesterday at 9 o'clock in the evening. Dad's bed went poof, and he was distraught. He's got no sleep for God. That's a really brilliant one. That's a great inciting incident. A breaking bed, a bed that, and I think that's quite good. But beds don't break. routinely, and you can always put the mattress on the floor. So think of a place where a bed being broken could really work. And I think that would be camping. You go camping, and Dad, he hates camping anyway. He wanted to stay in a hotel. The kids have persuaded him to go. He's been working so hard. He just needs a break. And halfway through the middle of the night, what happens? His bed pops, and he's lying on the floor. He's lying on the floor, and it's freezing cold. Okay, and Dad says, "I have had enough," and he walks off over a field to find a hotel. And he disappears. And the kids have got to find him. What has happened to him? What has happened to him? They see him walking to the mist, yeah, and he never ever reappears. And so that could lead you on a magical adventure. It could lead you on a crime adventure. So this is what we do. We take our first initial idea and we go, "Oh, that would be good. Oh, how could it be better? How could it be better?" And we keep driving it forward. And that's what I've done in these books. And what is interesting actually about this wonderful thing, and it's slightly unusual, it is at least for me, is that there are two characters in it, and each one of them has got an inciting incident. So Jessica's is when she finds something in the river. I bet you can guess what it is. And Cymbeline's is when he comes home and he finds out that his mum is moving all of these people into his house, and it changes his life forever. And the two plots go sort of side by side, and hopefully you'll be reading it thinking, how are they going to join together? And at the end, the characters come together, and then the plot becomes one plot. So that's me. I can see Ben is back with some of your brilliant questions. I hope that has given you a bit of an insight in how writers begin their stories. And please take those wonderful ideas and write them for your teachers or just at home, as you wish.
Hello, Adam. Thank you that's been absolutely fantastic. I'm never going to look at poo sticks the same way again. Let's deal with a load of questions. We have so many, and when you do ask your questions, use the Q&A function, and remember to put your school on there as well. So, for instance, I've got a question from Freya. I don't know what school Freya's from, but what inspired you to become an author?
That's a hard question. I don't know. When I grew up, I had loads of brothers. I had 5 older brothers. I had an older sister. The house was chaotic and full, and I found that when I read books, there was a moment of calm, and also I was in hand-me-down clothes. My mum and dad would never remember my name. It's like, "Guy, stop it, Jason, stop it, whoever you are." And I needed this kind of individual space, and I would read books, and books. It was a very strange thing, Ben, because I would feel like the person who wrote the book sometimes knew me better than the people I lived in my house with somehow. And I don't know if you've had that experience of just going, "Wow, this book is about me," even if it's set on the moon, even if it's set in America, somehow. So, and then I had a really brilliant English teacher. Hello, teachers, you're all wonderful. And Mr. Emmons, encouraged me because he knew that I love books, and so I began to write. And then I found that when I look at the world, I see it in stories. Some people want to create music, some people want to paint pictures. But when I see the world, the only way I can understand it is to create stories about it. And all the things that happen in your life, all the good things, the happy things, the bad things, I find that if I write stories about them, then they kind of seep into my life, and I can get on with things. And I think that's probably why. Although I don't actually know. And if I ever did know, I might want to stop doing it. So I'm a bit nervous of actually understanding why I want to write books.
Okay. And another question from Nor. My name is Nor. I'm from Ashmead Combined School in Aylesbury. I want to ask, if you were not a writer, what would your dream job be?
Oh, goodness me. I always like the idea of being a barrister, one of those lawyers who stands up in court and defends the innocent person who's going to get put in prison forever. And I quite like the idea of that, but I think it's because they get to wear these stupid wigs and they stand up. They stand up and they sounded really important. I wanted to be a tennis player when I was young, but I'm not good enough. Not good enough. It's terrible to me, that one. I still think really I probably could win Wimbledon if given a chance. But so tennis player or barrister, but writer. I don't want to stop. Thank you very much.
Were you anything before a writer?
I have done so many different jobs because it's hard to sort of grow up and leave university and say, I am now a writer, I shall write books. You need some life experience, you need to build up confidence. So I've done lots of jobs. I worked for Channel 4 in their press office. I at the moment, I teach creative writing at Kingston University in London. I've got my Kingston University mug there, which I do, but mostly I'm a writer. But somebody asked me this the other day, and I remembered my first ever job, and it was working in a frozen sprout factory. So there you go. That I think is the job I was best at, other than being a writer, was working in a frozen sprout factory on the night shift at 4 o'clock in the morning when I just left university. And I learned a lot about life there from all the people working there, I can tell you.
I tell you, my favourite job, best job I've ever had, I was on quality control at Kit Kat. So
that one's not good enough. That one's not good enough. That one's not good enough.
I had to eat Kit Kat all day, basically.
Oh, can I just tell you now, I really wish you hadn't told me that, because I'm going to be jealous of you for the rest of the day until I can forget that. Can you imagine that, kids out there? Quality control at Kit Kat.
It was honestly, there were some very big chaps who worked on that.
I bet.
So Beth from Brooklands has asked, what is your favourite book that you've written? I suppose that includes all the adult ones you've done as well, and also your children.
All of these ones. Now, you may, Brooke, be not the only child in your family.
Beth,
and what you've just asked me, Beth, sorry, is which is your favourite child? Okay, and I can't possibly answer that about the books I've written, but what I can say is that my favourite book is the one I'm writing now, which I can't tell you about because it's bad luck. Because the idea that I'm working on now is exciting me, and it's energizing me, and it's confusing me. But when it comes out, I'm hoping it will be the best book I have ever written. Now, some writers produce books, and you'll have this experience if you read books by the same author, that sometimes they get worse. Sometimes they get worse, and you think, oh, it's not as good as these other ones. And he's just going on this kind of chain, and he's publishing it because, you know, people recognize his name. I would never do that. I never want to do that. Every book I publish, I think, is the best one I've done. So this is the best book I think I've published, yeah? And before that, it was this one. Before that, it was this one, and it goes back and back. But if my favorite book is not the one I'm writing, why should you read it? So that's my answer. It's the one I'm writing now.
Very good, very good answer. Michael from Ashmead, have you ever played poo sticks yourself? And dare I ask the question whether you've played poo sticks?
No, I've never played it with poo, but I love poo sticks. I think it is probably my favourite sport. And in fact, what would I rather do than be a writer as a professional poo stick player? I think poo sticks should be in the Olympic Games. It makes just as much sense as half the sports they have. It's wonderful. And what I love about it, and this is quite important, it's one of the things I've wanted to write about poo sticks, is that it's all about chaos. You can't choose. You drop your stick in the water, and what happens to it, and you yell at your stick, and then it does. You think you're going to win, and then it goes into a log, and the one at the back comes before, and it reminds me of life. You have to, as a story writer, I don't invent my stories invent me, and I don't sort of go, right, I'm going to do this, I have to let the story take me. And when I'm writing a book, I'm like a stick in a river. It takes me, I get stuck. I might get stuck. There's not much a stick can do to free itself. There's nothing I can do. I go for a walk, I go running, I can't think. I think that's it. I'm stuck forever. This book will and then suddenly I'm moving again, and the story is going on again. So I cannot see a river without wanting to play poo sticks. And I love it.
Caitlin asks a very good question. She's clearly a very smart girl. Caitlin from Brooklands Middle School, how do you pick your character names?
Oh, that's a great question. And again, okay, so I teach creative writing, and there are loads of things you can learn about it. And hopefully you've learned a bit about the Inciting Incident and starting stories just from that little bit that we did earlier. But there's something that you can't learn and you can't decide, and it is names. So if a name has to just come to you, I don't know why, it's magic, it's mystery. So Cymbeline Igloo, why is he called that? He's called that because his name appeared inside me. and I have absolutely no idea why. Veronique, her name's Veronique. It has to be that. Just ask yourself, Caitlin, what if your mum or dad or whoever looks after you tomorrow said, we're not going to call you Caitlin anymore, we're going to call you Philippa? Yeah. Oh, that's wrong, isn't it? You are Caitlin. You absolutely are that, I think, unless you want to take ownership of your name and change it. But some people do that. They feel like their name is the wrong name. When my second child was born, we called her Ava. We thought Ava. And then when she was there in my wife's arms, we both looked at her. We decided beforehand that her name was Ava, but her name wasn't Ava. So we changed her name to Vi. Her name's Vi, because she just wasn't that. And that's the same with stories and books. The names just come and you can't argue with them.
Zach from Ashmead, have you ever thought about writing horror stories?
Ooh. Now I do like horror stories, and I haven't. Horror films terrify me. I can't watch horror films. I like writing books, I suppose, that are about the real experiences of people, whether they're funny ones or difficult ones. And what horror stories do, they try to have this one effect. Horror. They want to scare you. And so far, I've never wanted to do that. But if I get a good idea for one, I will definitely do it, because that's the other thing, is I don't decide what story to write. I don't sit here thinking, right, which one will be best for my career, like some writers do perhaps. I just write the story that is inside me and is the most powerful, that needs to be told. So if that is a horror story, I certainly will, because I do like reading them. My favorite book, my horror book, is called Rosemary's Baby, but you mustn't read it until you're older, because it's very scary.
Fantastic. Stephen Warner, I love Kit Kat. That's great. I tell you what, weirdly, so do I.
Well, can I tell you something about Kit Kat? Is in this book, Veronique has a pet rat called Kit Kat. And there's quite a few jokes about Kit Kat and the Kit Kat and the rat Kit Kat in there. And in fact, in that book, people ask me what my favorite character. In this book, my favorite character is Kit Kat the rat, because Kit Kat is a very clever rat.
I'm looking at the time thinking we've got 2 minutes left for our class. There's so many questions, honestly. It says 138 questions. I mean,
I can see that. I can't believe it. It's amazing.
Honestly, I mean, it's incredible. I'll just throw a little comment from Liliana from Longmaster School. I'm writing a book called Zadie's Journey. Oh, well, there we go. That's
great, because stories are about journeys. Fantastic. I want to read that already. I want to read that.
Fantastic. So listen, I'm going to draw things to a close. Thank you to all the schools that have joined us, all the students, some from school, some from home. Thank you to Adam Barron for joining us. This is the book we've been focusing on today. Any of you who get the book from us will get a special signed book plate. I was talking to Adam beforehand. He did the signature on all of them, obviously, but he got his daughter to do the smiley face.
Yes, there's smiley faces on there. So yes, but two of my daughters doing the smiley faces, and they were arguing about who was doing them, better than the other one. Obviously,
I believe that smiley face might well be an official Adam Barron.
Or I did do some of them, but they told me to stop because they weren't good enough. As theirs would be better than mine. Lovely. Such is my life.
If you want to get hold of the book from us, it's on at a discounted price until the end of tomorrow, and so do get your orders in. Get your parents to get you one of those. They're very good value. So thank you, Adam, once again. Thank you, kids, for joining us. Thank you, teachers, for your support. I've got a little list of things that are coming up. We've got Dominique Valente on the 11th of March. She writes Starfell, many of you will know that. 25th of March, we've got the author of Pages & Co., Anna James. 22nd of April, Nicholas Skinner, who does Starboard. And 29th of April, we've got Rob Biddulph doing an art class. So, World Book Day is now sold out. So hopefully you've all got into that. We've got Hannah Gold and Olaf Falafel. So that's next Thursday. But thank you, Adam, for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody, for your amazing questions and your fantastic story ideas. Thanks all for listening, and thanks to all you teachers out there for the amazing jobs you do.
Massive thanks. I'm going to quickly read all the names out of questions I've missed out. Cameron, Courtney, Beth, Lynn, Katie, Alicia, another one from Beth Ruth, even us. A name, got 2 names there. Beth Ruth, what's going on? Zainab, Gareth, Goring Farrow, George. Guys, you're all legends. Thank you so much for your efforts. Thank you once again, Adam, and we'll see you for another event one other time when we can do physical ones as well in class.
Yeah, that would be great. Looking forward to that.
Brilliant.
Take care, everybody.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.